Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let's continue our discussions on syntax. Everybody, let me repeat this again and again. The definitions of syntax. What is syntax, everybody? Yes, syntax is a discussion about how words are used to construct bigger linguistic units. Bigger linguistic units than words. So what are they? Phrases, clauses, and sentences. Before we talk further about phrases, clauses, and sentences, we have to pay attention to the notions of the grammatical category of words. We already talked about that. You already read the explanations about the grammatical category of words, function words versus content words versus function words, and then how you identify a certain word belong to certain grammatical category of words. Okay. Last meeting, we already talked about phrases. And then when we are talking about phrases, we also have to pay attention to the concept of grammatical category of phrase. And then based on the grammatical category of phrase, there are at least 4 types of phrases. They are noun phrase, verb phrase, adjective phrase, and prepositional phrase. When we are talking about words consist of elements. The elements of words are morphemes. When we are talking about phrase consists of elements. Okay. So when we are discussing element of phrase, when we are talking about the elements of clause, when we are talking about the element of sentences, we are no longer in morphology, we are already in the level of syntax. And then when we are talking about the elements of phrase, we have to pay attention to the difference between grammatical category of words and its function when it occurs in a syntactic structure. Okay? When it occurs in a phrase, a certain word has got its own grammatical category. Besides, it also has got its function. For example, in the phrase beautiful girl, the girl becomes the hat. So isn't it now? Yes. Girl, the grammatical category of girl is a noun, and in that phrase it functions as the hat. That is the reason why it is called noun phrase. And then the other elements also have got function. In noun phrase, we already talked about modifier and determiner as the other elements besides the hat. And then when we are talking about verb phrase, besides verb as the head of that phrase, we also talk about some other words that have got its own, each of the words has got its own grammatical category, and it also has got its own function in that syntactic structure of the phrase. Besides the head in verb phrase, there are also object, adverb, that becoming noun becomes the object, and adverbs that becomes the modifier for the verb. Okay, and then when we talk about the adjective phrase, of course the head of the word that the phrase is adjective. That is the reason why it is called adjective phrase. And there are some other elements that has got each of them has got its own function in that syntactic structure, like intensifier and like modifier. Okay. Yeah. So when we are talking about prepositional phrase, we also talk about the word you call the head, and then there are some other functions. And then we don't talk about the what you call that, the role first. We are talking about the role of the linguistic unit later in semantics. Okay, now let's move forward to the discussions about clause. Okay, so last meeting we already talked about the definitions of phrase. Phrase is a string of words that hasn't got any subject predicate construction. Okay, and then what about clause? Clause is a string of words that has got subject predicate construction. Let's come back to the definitions of phrase. Phrase is a string of words that hasn't got any subject predicate construction, so it is not a good definition, because the definition should not contain the negation. So let's revise it. What is phrase? Phrase is a string of words that has got the head as that has got a certain element becomes the head. Okay. Now let's come back to the clause. What is clause? Clause is a string of words that has got subject predicate construction. Let's come to Indonesian examples first. Gunung tinggi. Is it a phrase or is it a clause? It is a phrase because it hasn't got any subject predicate construction. But what are we talking about in Gunung Tinggi? Are we talking about gunung or are we talking about tinggi? Yes, we are talking about gunung. Tinggi is the modifier. So gunung is a noun, so it is a noun phrase. Okay? Gunung Tinggi is not a clause because it hasn't got any subject predicate construction. What about gunung itu tinggi? Is it a phrase or a clause? Yes, it is a clause. Why? Because it has got a subject predicate construction. Which one is the subject? Gunung itu. What about tinggi? Tinggi is the predicate. Okay? Let's come back. Let's translate it to English. High mountain. Is it a phrase or a clause? It is a phrase. The mountain is the head, and then high is the modifier. And then how we change it into a clause. So we make a new construction, make a new string of words. The mountain is high. The mountain is high is a phrase or a clause? Yes, it is a clause. Why? Because that string of words has got a subject predicate construction. Which one is the subject? The mountain. Which one is the predicate? Is high. Okay? Guru yang baik. Okay. Ya, anak muda. Okay, let's say anak muda. Okay, ya, ayam anak muda. Anak muda is a phrase or a clause. Has it got subject predicate construction? No, it is a phrase. Okay? Which one is the head? Anak. What is muda? Muda is the modifier. And then saya guru. Okay? Saya guru. Is it a phrase or a clause? Has it got subject predicate construction? Yes. Which one is the subject? Saya. Which one is the predicate? Guru. Okay. Yeah. Again and again I am telling you the difference between clause and phrase is in the what you call that, in the idea whether there is a subject predicate construction. And then there is a big question now. What is subject? Okay. Later we are going to talk about a subject more detail in semantics. Subject can become a doer of an activity. Okay, subject can be a doer. So subject can become the experiencer of a state. Okay? The subject can become the, what you call that, the doer of an activity. Like in I study English, I drank some water just now, so I is the experience, is the doer of the activity. And then besides the experience, besides the doer, subject can become the, what you call that, experiencer. We are going to talk about this detail in semantics, okay? Like I love you. So I here is the experiencer of the situation, the conditions of the, what you call, romance with you. Okay, I here is the, what you call that, the experiencer. And then in saya minum, saya is the, what you call that, doer. Saya mencintaimu, saya here is not the doer but experiencer. Saya guru. So is it a clause? Yes, it is. The subject is saya, and then a guru is the predicate. And then what is saya here? Saya is the theme. Theme means what are we talking about? Okay, we are going to talk about this later in semantics. But if you want to read the book written by Fauzi and Maulana about semantic roles, please do. Okay, you can read the more explanations about the doer, experiencer, and theme, and then read. And then what about predicate? Predicate is a syntactic unit which is accompanying the subject. Let me give you a philosophical association. What is subject and predicate? There is no subject when there is no predicate. There is no predicate when there is no subject. Now I have got an idea. So subject predicate is like husband and wife. We can say that subject is the husband and then predicate is the wife. Okay, so we have to pay attention to the difference between the function. Subject is function. Let's come back to the structure of phrase. Head, modifier, determiner, intensifier, object are, what you call that, functions that should be differentiated from the grammatical category. Let's come back to subject and predicate. Subject is function that the grammatical category of linguistic units, or the words that can function as a subject, can be noun, can be pronoun. Okay, you see the difference between grammatical category and functions. And then other elements besides subjects are the predicate in a clause. Okay, so subject and clause are functions, and the grammatical category are different from category and functions. Okay, now clause. When we are talking about clause, we cannot, we also have to talk about sentence. There is a big question now. What is sentence? Let me repeat, starting from the phrase. What is phrase? Phrase is a string of words that hasn't got any subject-predicate constructions, or phrase is a string of words that has got a certain element that, or a certain word becoming its head. What is clause? Clause is a string of words that has got subject-predicate construction. What is subject? Blah 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 blah. I told you already. What is predicate? Predicate is other elements, other syntactic elements accompanying the subject. What is sentence? Sentence is a string of words. Again and again, a string of words. Syntax is dealing with string of words. Sentence is a string of words that orthographically begins with a capital letter and ends with a dot or with a punctuation mark, with a dot if it is a statement, with a punctuation mark if it is a question, with an exclamation mark if it is an exclamative sentence. Okay. Again, what is a sentence? A sentence is a string of words that orthographically begins with a capital letter and ends with a punctuation mark. And remember, a sentence should have at least one clause. So it means a sentence can have more than one clause. Exactly. A sentence that has got one clause is called simple sentence. A sentence that has got two clauses can be a compound sentence, can be a complex sentence. A sentence that has got more than two clauses can be a compound complex sentence. Or can be compound sentence, can be a compound complex sentence. Okay, now let me explain you the difference between clause and sentence. For example, I sing. Is it a clause or not? Yes. There is a subject, there is a predicate. I sing. Is it a sentence or not? Wait. Does it begins with a capital letter? Does it ends with a dot? If the answer is yes, yes, it is a sentence. What type of sentence is it? It is a simple sentence. Why? Because it only has got one clause. Okay? I love you. Don't say that. I go and you come. I go, but you come. Is it a clause? No. It is not a clause. Why? Because there are two clauses there. What are the clauses? I go, and then what is the other clauses? What is the other clause? You come. I go, but you come is not a clause, but it is a string of words that containing two clauses. And then there is a question now. So is it a sentence? Wait. Does it begin with a capital letter and ends with a dot? Yes, yes, it is a sentence. Is it a simple sentence? No, it is not a simple sentence. What do you call it? It is a compound sentence. What is a compound sentence? A compound sentence is a string of words that begin with a capital letter and ends with a dot, and it has got at least two dependent clauses. I go is a dependent clause. You come is a dependent clause. I go and you come is a sentence that containing of two independent clauses. And then what about but? Okay, I go but you come. What is but? It is a coordinator. I go if you also go. Is it a clause? No, it is there are two clauses. Is it a simple sentence? Is it a compound sentence? No. Why not? When I say I go, and then you can give your directly comment. Oh, where are you going, Bob? Jose? But if I say, if you come, you have to wait. So you cannot directly comment on what I am telling you. So if you come, if you also come, so it's not an independent clause because the occurrence of if here. I go is a independent clause. So sorry, independent clause because it can stand alone. You can directly give comment, but if you also come is a dependent clause. It cannot stand alone. It should be accompanied by other independent clause. And then there are two clauses, right? I go if you also come. So there are two clauses. What is the first clause? I go. And then what is another clause? You also come. What about if? If is a coordinator. Different from you go, I go, but you come. But is a coordinator, but the type of the coordinator is not subordinating coordinator, but it is ordinating coordinator. So in grammar, you said ordinate conjunction. If in I go, if you also come, if a subordinate coordinator or subordinate conjunction. Conjunction, it is a grammatical category that function as a subordinator. And but or are conjunctions, the grammatical category, and the function is as the ordinating conjunction. It is coordinating conjunction. Coordinate conjunction versus subordinate conjunction. Okay? Well, everybody, I think it is better for you to read the books, the pages that I recommend you. So I think the book written by Maulana Fauzi and Maulana can help you a bit to grab the ideas of what I told you about. Okay, so we already come to the discussions about the simple sentence, a string of words that has got one clause, one independent clause, and then compound sentence, a sentence that has got two independent clauses, and there is a subordinate conjunction, coordinate conjunction or coordinator, and then what you call that complex sentence when there is a independent clause accompanied by dependent clause. Why is it called dependent? Because there is a subordinate conjunction. Subordinate conjunction is a grammatical category, and the function is as a subordinator. In the book of Fauzi and Maulana, so it is exemplified. If I had to live my life without you near me, the days would all be empty and the night would seem so long. The days would all be empty is a clause. It is a simple sentence if it is begins with the capital letter and ends with a dot. The days would all be empty and the night would seem so long. Two clauses. It is a compound sentence if it begins with the capital letter and ends with a dot. If I had to live my life without you near me, the days would all be empty. It is a complex sentence because if I had to live my life without you near me is a dependent clause or a subclause, because the occurrence of if as a subordinate conjunctions, the days would all be empty is a independent clause. If I had to live my life without you near me, the days would all be empty is an example of complex sentence. What about if I had to live my life without you near me, the days would all be empty and the night would seem so long. So it is a compound, complex sentence. Well, everybody, again and again I'm telling you, what you have to do is pay attention to the explanation that I gave, and then also please go over your books. What I would like to underline here, so every element of a syntactic unit, element of phrase, element of clause, element of sentence, has got its own grammatical category, and it also has got its own syntactic function. Besides the category functions, there are also roles of linguistic units. We are going to talk about that in semantics. Well, everybody, I hope what I am telling you today can a bit decrease your confusion about syntactic structure. Inshallah, we are going to review what we have discussed so far next meeting. Please make sure that you are better informed, becoming better and better informed with the notions of syntactic matters. Remember, if you are well informed with this morphological and syntactic notions, inshallah, you will understand grammar easily. And inshallah, you can use the language, you can produce the language better, and then of course, you will become a better English language teachers now and in the future. Thank you very much for paying attention to my video. See you again next week. The last words from me are Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.